Good morning, and welcome to the 12 Attitudes and Responsibilities of Mastery. Today is Monday, the 16th of May, 2016, and my name is Michael Bailey, and I'd like to welcome you.
Thank you, Michael.
Hi, Margie. Okay, so I'm just going to start reading off the screen. So we're going to get started here. Part of the process of spiritual integration of our higher selves for the expansion of our consciousness, which is also referred to as enlightenment, involves reprogramming the way we think. Our thoughts create our reality and both our internal and external life experiences. The 12 Attitudes and Responsibilities of Mastery, when embodied and lived, will help to change our thought patterns. Thoughts that we simply take for granted because they are part of our programming, our life experiences beginning before birth, and our unique perspective on our hologram, or our external world. The changing of thought patterns actually changes the programming in our physical body and DNA. The 12 Attitudes and Responsibilities of Mastery are crucial to understanding what kinds of choices lead to what kind of outcomes, and provide guidelines regarding choices that lead towards oneness and the freedom from limitation and separation, including financial freedom, associated with true personal mastery. Thank you for joining us for an in-depth reading and discussion of the 12 Attitudes and Responsibilities of Mastery, and exploring how they can be utilized to create true joy, happiness, inner peace, and personal prosperity, both emotional and financial. And I'd like to start off, this is a poem, it's from the Tao Te Ching. This is on oneness. Mm-hmm. Expressed, it loses its expression. Defined, it loses its definition. In its emptiness, it is the cradle of all existence. In its fullness, it is creator of all things. Ever empty, it surrenders into the mystery. Ever full, it creates into the unknown. Of one source, they differ in name, yet all arise from the one. Oneness beyond one. Herein lies the key to all mysteries. And duality, or polarity we might also call it. Beauty is seen only because of ugliness. Greatness is known only for its lack. Emptiness and fullness are born of each other. Difficulty and ease create one another. Long and short grow out of each other. High and low reflect one another. Sound and listening complement each other. Front and back follow one another. And on it goes. Thus the wise pay no heed. Their acts without words showing the way. So do all things flow without thought, creating without possessing, acting without attachment, achieving without claiming achievement, existing without laying claim to existence. Thus moves all life unto eternity. And last week, we left off with engaged detachment. So that's where we're going to start today. Mm-hmm. There is a big drama going on, and we can pretend it does not exist, or we can recognize that by engaging it is where we learn to love it. Looking at the drama. If we can look at the most yucky stuff in our own hologram, even on a mass level, and say, well, I am co-creating this with others. I might not be able to do anything about the other's part right now. However, I am co-creating this. You can believe what you want, and you would manifest and see the parts of reality that fit your pictures. But that does not change the fact that there is an underlying reality that is the real reality beneath it. This reality is within a greater context and structure of universal order and divine will. We cannot say to only believe good things and you will only have good things happen to you. It is within a greater context and structure of universal order and divine will as well. If we are over on one side saying, I'm not going to go there, I'm not going to look at it, I am not going to lower myself to that vibration, the result is that vibration is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger because nobody is healing it. No one is loving it. No one is fixing it. When we turn our attention to the history and to the stuff we might not particularly want to know about right now, but we need to, we are putting our energy right into it, and we are bringing a higher frequency in to harmonize and heal it. That is how you change things, and that is what we are doing. That is why it is important to see that a Christos being sees and allows both sides of any polarity drama, but gets engaged and dragged around by neither. This is where it becomes a state of engaged detachment. It understands itself as a position, almost like the Manu position. The Manu position is the divine still point. The still point that allows the divine to flow through and raise whatever on either side to its highest order. That is the healthiest way to look at a drama that could otherwise put you into fear. Knowing the solutions allows us the opportunity to stay out of fear. We have a choice. We have a choice to grow and put into the act joy, power, and love. And what we will get in return is going to be phenomenal. Because fear is a choice. Something to ponder. And before I read this, Manu, the Divine Trinity, which in religion has been personified as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit or Holy Ghost, what is actually a representation of what they're called the prime life force currents. There's the Ire, which is basically the divine feminine. There's the Mane, which is the divine masculine. And then there's the Manu, which is the central point, which is both. It's the still point between. How does a person get itself into the Manu position? How would that feel to be at the center point? Take a breath and bring in higher frequency into your body right now. How does that feel? Does it make you feel more centered and calm?
Yeah.
Continue to breathe and observe how you feel. LTR statements are essentially, LTR means linguistic template reprogramming. These are spoken affirmations. I am engaged detachment now. I am whole now. I am this. I am. Engaged detachment versus detachment. There's a difference. In engaged detachment, you are fully engaged, but detached to the outcome or from the outcome. Now, there is detachment where you'll walk around and say, I am in this world, but not of it. I'm just a space cadet. Excuse me, but this is what it reads like, space cadet, space cadet. What you're doing is pulling the consciousness literally out of the body and hanging it back behind you. It is a form of not being able to deal with the world as it is. It is a form of fear, I should say fear response. It is not spiritual evolution. Engaged detachment means you will get right in there, but it also means that if you are feeling, that wasn't quite right, you will stand up for that point. When you get angry, you can let the anger and the emotion of anger move through you. You do not have to let it go and rip people apart. That is obviously not responsible. But People who go into detachment shut down their emotional bodies, and eventually that can lead to post-traumatic stress if there's enough. They completely ignore that energy. They pretend it isn't there. They put a lot of energy into blocking it and to pretend they have it all mastered. This feeds the shadow self, and the emotional body is completely controlled by the shadow. When you push their buttons just a little, they explode like bombs. And then they wonder where that came from. Sometimes they scare themselves because they didn't know they had that. That is because you keep being detached. You can only be detached for so long before the rest of you says, okay, I've got enough energy in here. You're not paying attention to me. I'm going to let you know it, that I'm alive. Engaged detachment means you can allow emotion, joy, sorrow, all of those things to move through you. You can experience the reality of them. You can share with people who are experiencing those things, but you do not let them stick and stay stuck. They move through you. They can be in you, but not of you, and they move. And when you let emotion move, it changes form. Think about it for a moment. What is emotion? Emotion is emotion, energy in motion. So if you try to stop it, you're going to create disharmonics, and which eventually can lead to disease and illness and all kinds of things. People would not blow up and get angry and throw things across the room and that kind of stuff if during the first 500 times that something disharmonic bugged them, they let that out and acknowledged it. But what they do is not acknowledge it. And the stress builds up and builds up and builds up, and they get in what are called reversals in the DNA strands going more and more and more, and eventually they blow. That is where you get the emotional chaos and the biochemical chaos that goes with it. Engaged detachment means we can live life. We can like stuff too. You can enjoy having a pretty flower vase on your table. You can desire to create a house and do so. You do not have to go into the I am spiritual, I have no money, I have no possessions, I am totally detached from everything in this world. Well, if that's the case, why bother keeping your body here? If you are that detached, why not leave? There's a twist in certain teachings that teach you that you have to be this space cadet from somewhere else. You do not have to do stuff like that. But when you get to the point where you are putting yourself up as, well, I am Mr. and Mrs. Pious, I am so spiritual because I do not do stuff. I do not get attached to people. What that means is that I don't want to be responsible for anybody that might get connected to me, or that I might actually have to change my behavior to accommodate. There are little tricks inside some of these supposedly spiritual teachings. If you are engaged, you get right in there. And the difference is illustrated here in the following example. This is an example of someone who's engaged. If you see a little kid running across the street to get a ball and a car is coming, a little kid, 2 years old, does not see the car, you see the kid and the car. Someone in detachment would say, oh, well, I wouldn't want to interfere with its karmic pattern, and you watch as the child gets splattered. Someone in engaged detachment would say, I'm not attached to the outcome here. I am well aware that I might get flattened and I might not be able to save the kid, but I'm going to go and grab that kid out of the way of the car. You're going to get engaged. You're going to do something. You have the power to change what is here. You aren't supposed to just allow it and walk through it and say, oh, everything's fine, just leave it that way. Oh, just let everything fall into a black hole. That is just fine. God doesn't mind. There is a difference. between detachment and engaged detachment. Engaged detachment implies that I choose to be responsible while I am here and to realize that my energy will affect this place. So I will conduct myself in a way that is helpful. Something to ponder. How often do you zone out and allow your thoughts to zoom all over the place? Everything you say or do affects everybody and everything in your hologram. Every thought you think creates thought forms. So, what are you creating today? Start observing your thoughts. What are you thinking? Do these thoughts support you and your alignment with your heroic probability? The heroic probability is your highest heroic probability, your highest probability, your highest potential. Some affirmations. I choose to be responsible now. I am a powerful being. Engaged detachment and purging. We can choose peace. We can choose love. Even now, when we are in the process of purging our Tauran body, which is one of the subtle energy bodies, do we need to know where all the emotional output is coming from? I don't think we do, because it is all the inorganics that have collected there for eons. Inorganics means inorganic reversals. Let it go. We can jump right in there with it as it all comes to the surface and play with it all, or we can step back, watch it with detachment, and let it run its course. And that, too, is a choice. I watched this ability of choice in my fellow Morocco participants, and they're referring here to a particular workshop. How most everyone dealt with their purging, which was very intense, with grace, dignity, and engaged detachment. No whining, no emotional overindulgence, no victim stance, just a sort of stoic grace that I was honored to be a part of. It was done with true indigo courage and style. The most any of us can hope for to contribute to the Christos realignment mission is to be strong and centered. That is the biggest service we can perform at this time. We just need to remember that being centered is a choice. And something to ponder. Take a moment to feel within yourself, what does grace feel like? What does dignity feel like? And what does it mean to you to have dignity? Some affirmations. I am grace, dignity, and engaged detachment. I am centered now. I am my Christos self now. And when we refer to Christos self, we're referring to the inner Christos. Engaged detachment and manifestation. It is really hard to see the place of union where the polarities come together and then not react to them as if they are polarized. It is not easy to get to a point where you can just have a love space with them and not have problems or even challenges in your life. You just have life as it is, and you move through manifestation reality, realizing you can fully experience things and learn about everything as you do. This is where you have engaged, detached involvement. You cannot do that very easily when you have certain portions of your waveforms, which is because we're all energy, your muons turned into dions. These are high energy particles that science hasn't recognized yet, all twisted in on themselves. This distortion program has created a division in the self. It polarizes the 3 DNA strands from each other, where there is not a clear communication between them. Find the neutral point within yourself. You can diffuse conflicts with each other in this way. Learn to be at peace. Learn to be the still point that allows itself to perceive and experience as the hologram runs through it. It is in the hologram, but not of it. You can experience reality from peace, which is different than detachment. Detachment is a form of resistance, and what you resist persists. So you are in polarity when you are in detachment. Start with learning to be peace when you begin to use the power of intention within the hologram. For example, I am peace. This is the state of balance between joy and sorrow, between fly away and fight. Start from peace and love. I am love. I am a state of vibrational harmonization now. The more you say this, the more your energies create that pattern. You will bring it to yourself. At first, you need to objectify it to yourself, to hear yourself say it, to make the statement, to hear the sound. If you say something out loud, you're actually putting it into your past. What we see out here is the hologram manifest from the one you had activated in your DNA template right before you moved into the next one. If you want it here, you need to anchor it in your past, as well as have it as your intention inside. The I am statements are very useful and very helpful. Start with I am peace and I am love. And love is a state of vibrational harmonization. I am this. I am. Do not say I am that I am. Think about what it is you are saying here. It is a twist that separates it away from you. I am this. I am unifies. And something to ponder. Find the neutral point within you, within yourself. Find the linguistic template reprogramming statements or affirmations with which you resonate and make them part of your daily routine. And some examples of these affirmations or LTR statements. I am. These are probably two of the most powerful words in the English language. I am. I am peace. I am love. I am a state of vibrational harmonization now. I am this. I am. The key to manifestation. The key to manifestation is stating from the still point, I am peace, and stating from absolute engaged detachment, I am love. Love is a state of vibrational harmonization. This means I am everything, the vibrational field around me. I am this. This is me. I am in love. When you become in love with your unified field and your universe, everything changes in your hologram. You can walk it and be in it and not of it. And it can move through you and people can be who they are. You can respond with peace if you are peace. You cannot give peace to somebody or a situation if you are not it. You have to be what sets the hologram. In other words, you can't love someone else if you don't have love for yourself. You can't give what you don't have. I am peace. I am love. I am abundance. And something to ponder. Engaged detachment. Take a few moments to go inside and find the still point. It's sort of like in meditation where you just let all thoughts cease. Then state from that still point, I am peace. And then feel the peace. And then state from absolute engaged detachment, I am love. And some affirmations. I am engaged detachment. I permit the all-oneness to be what it is without assigning critique, condemnation, or value judgment. Because I understand the isness and I validate the all-oneness. The isness obviously means the nature of something. I am peace. I am love. I am abundance. Next comes joy. Living by your limitless joy is the greatest form of defiance, and living by your limitless fear is the greatest form of compliance. Point your rebellion in the right direction. Joy is choosing to be the embodied all-oneness. That is where joy comes from. When you learn what the parts are to get these frequencies and these levels of consciousness open in your body, you can make the choice of joy. You progressively experience more and more joy. Some of the New Age teachings teach you detachment, saying you have to go beyond emotion, beyond joy or sorrow. This is not a good thing. Emotion changes and grows and expands when you begin to understand why all sorts of things are allowed. So the emotions don't flip between polarities so much. And then they actually expand into just one emotion, a state of ecstatic joy, where all things are okay. But you will still do engaged detachment if you can shift things to a higher level and serve in healing. This hologram, our lives, were intended to be joyful. It was intended to allow God's source to explore itself and to find out more about itself by making itself into many faces. So each one of us is a face of God. This is what is meant by we are all one. But when God puts itself in pieces down here in the lower dimensions, especially if it allows part of its DNA to be turned off, the part that's turned off, they completely forget who and what it is. There is only one consciousness in the whole entire cosmos. There is only one identity in the whole cosmos, and that is you. That is God. There is no difference. Joy comes through personal empowerment, through your own natural embodied structure. That is your connection to God's source. You can be strong in that wherever and whatever. joy, sorrow, and the law of allowance. The programs that we teach are about getting the whole system working together, and that means having guts. That means facing the shadow and realizing that it is there. That means having enough guts to say, I am perfect just the way I am. And that is perfectly me, and that is good enough for right now. You do not need an idea of perfect that someone else gave you, some high standard. Oh, that person can walk through walls, and I can't do that yet, but when I am perfect, I will be able to do that. Maybe even if you are not perfect, you can learn how to do that. There are fallen angelics that can walk through walls. There is a purpose in this, a way for God's source to explore itself in joy. But part of what God's source explores also is sorrow. Joy and sorrow on the source level are not perceived in quite the same ways that they are down here. While we are in polarity, joy and sorrow can be very extreme. They're opposite ends of a polarity spectrum. You can feel very deep pain here. When we are at one with Source, we can comprehend the experience of pain of those within certain levels of densities where that registers as a very real sensation. However, God's Source and ourselves, in the place where we are at one with Source, understands the isness of all things, the way they were created to be. And God's Source does have a preference. A lot of twisted teachings tell you that God's Source does not have a preference, that evil and good are all the same kind of thing. Well, in a certain way, good and evil are all the same. But God's Source does have a preference. The preference was set with the creation of this time matrix that we exist within as a free will matrix that was meant to be a place where God's Source could create itself as beings to explore life. It had a certain parameter that as long as that intention was kept intact, then that was good, that was fine. There was a lot of leeway within there. If God's Source got into the hologram and found itself in a certain form that wanted to create an experience of sorrow for itself, it had the free will choice, the right to do that. However, if things got out of control and certain groups of God's Source that forgot they were Source decided that they were going to inflict themselves on other groups of God's Source who knew that they were God's Source and wanted to create a different hologram, God's Source would rebalance. There is a preference for goodness. God's Source is not indifferent. It would be sad if God's Source was indifferent and didn't really care if the fallen angelics trashed this time matrix and sucked it into a black hole. If it did not care if people were tortured and brutalized. If Source did not care about what its parts felt down here. God's Source knows we are a part of itself. If your toe hurts, you know it. It disrupts your day. You walk around limping. In the same way, God's Source feels each one of us. So there is a preference for what we call joy here and what we call harmony here. Source also has a huge tolerance for allowance, because allowance is an honoring of the free will gift that was given in the first place. As original divine intention set creation in motion upon a premise of free will choice, God's Source recognized that the undesirable potential for opposite expression existed inherently within the desired expression of free will creation itself. Though creation of opposite expression was not the intention of God's source, nor was the creation of evil as a counterforce a desired exploration upon which God's source chose to embark. God's source recognized that the potential for opposite expression, or evil, must be allowed in order to fulfill the original divine intention of individuated free will Christic expression. Understanding this paradox, God's source thus imbued the divine design of original creation with the law of allowance and its unavoidable translation into cosmic physics mechanics of the law of tolerances, or the law of divine balance. Science sometimes sees this as for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, but it would be more accurate to say that for every action there's a proportionally balanced reaction. There is a part of us that exists within God's source, that there is a great victory and a joy felt, just like a parent perhaps raising a child. You watch that child come to the point where you don't have to control it anymore. You've taught it enough and gave it enough of you that it became a sentient being all unto itself. It had its own ideas, and it still made great choices and expressed beautiful creativity, things that you might have even thought of creating. As a parent, that child can bring you such great joy when you watch it carry the life force. It can also bring you great sorrow if it starts to do really messed up things. God's source, the part of us that is source, that is God, that is always at one there, relates to all of us, even the fallen angelics, which is another name for people who are evil, I guess, as we might to our children, to ones who went forth from ourselves and are of ourselves. It can feel every little thing. Every little raindrop that falls, God feels. The part of us that is God feels every little raindrop that falls. Every tiny little ant that carries a huge piece of bread across what appears to be many, many miles for ant legs, God feels every movement of that, and experiences every cognition that the little ant is experiencing as it is carrying that bread. It also experiences everything that each molecule in that bread is experiencing while it is being carried. We are like molecules here, but we are a vivid sensory impression within the part of ourselves that we call God. So there is a preference for joy. There is a path of joy and a path of sorrow to get home to God. The path of sorrow is going home in a way that you do not remember that you have a gift. You do not remember or use the gift of creative expression that you were given. You use it to destroy instead. You use it to put yourself back into space dust. Space dust is holy. It just does not remember much. So if you lose the joy of being able to go home and know it, of being able to be that child that learns and grows and evolves and learns all these wonderful things that it can bring back to source, to its parent, and say, whoa, look at this. I'm so expanded now because look what we got. You take that away from God's source as well when you choose a path of de-evolution, or the path of sorrow. The path of sorrow is the path of de-evolution for a being who does not use the primal life force currents in the correct way, or abuses the privilege of having these to use to create with. because it has smaller, usually ego-based issues like, oh, I want this right now, and even if it causes harm elsewhere, I don't care. That kind of extreme in polarity happens when they become code convoluted and cannot hold D12, which is the Christos frequency, anymore. That is a distortion of consciousness and implies a sickness, literally a mental illness in the first place, because Christos beings do not even think that way. Polarity comes down to what these primal life force currents are. And I remember I mentioned earlier, these primal life force currents have been described in religion as the Godhead, the Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. What they represent is there's Ire, which is the divine feminine, Mane, which is the divine masculine, and Manu, which is the still point between. They are levels of conscious awareness that belong to each of us. They're also literally currents of energy and frequency. We could not sustain our bodies here if we were not connected, at least originally, to all of these frequencies and what they are connected to as far as getting into complete expansion into Source. When you have fallen beings or fallen angelics, they sever their connection at one of these levels. It is really easy to sever an electromagnetic connection when you think about it. Think about magnets. If you put two positive electrical charges together and they push away from each other and break the link, they will not allow the arc of energy to continue. You need to put the positive and the negative poles together to allow a clear circuit to open up. The beings that do not have their divine blueprint because they cut themselves off created an artificial level of polarization here that turned what would be frequencies that should run negative, positive, electrical into either positive, positive or negative, negative, where they push away from each other. They broke the frequency pillar that comes down, the frequency pillar of their primal life force currents. The frequency pillar is always there, but they are no longer plugged into it. So they become finite. Something to ponder. In your daily life, are you making a choice for joy? Do the words you use and the thoughts you think lead you towards joy or towards sorrow? What does joy feel like for you? Can you feel the difference between joy and momentary happiness? And some affirmations. I am perfect just the way I am. I am perfectly me. I am joy. I'm going to go through this next section and then pause for today. Joy and pain. You can fully acknowledge both joy and pain and allow both polarities to run through you. And when they can run through you, and you do not assign a value, a judgment, or push either one of them away, they transmute. In terms of physics, particle and antiparticle merge. They come together and transmute. They turn into antimatter and go to the next level up. You progressively transmute the polarities as you expand back into Source. Something to ponder? Joy. The 6 steps toward personal joy and the 6 steps toward joy with others. And today we're just going to cover the 6 steps toward personal joy, and then we'll end for the day, and then we'll pick us up next week. So the 6 steps toward personal joy. Number 1, surrender to the moment. Suspend all judgment and all expectations. open to receive the lessons and the gift in self-awareness that each moment holds. Transcend polarity thinking and seek the gift. What can I learn from this that will take me to higher levels of self-awareness? Number 2, be here now, the present moment. Direct thoughts out of the past and away from the future to the ever-present now. Observe without judgment what is now. Am I right here, right now? Number 3, feel. Shift from thinking to knowing. Suspend linear thought analysis and mind chatter and breathe in the now of your present moment as energy to connect with our 3D reality in direct cognition rather than indirect observation. What does now feel like? And answer without words. Feel. Number 4, choose your response. Act rather than react. We can change how we feel in any moment by changing our judgments of a situation. Take time to re-perceive circumstances of upset and reframe our judgments in search of the hidden gift and potentials. In any moment, we can choose how we will respond. So how can I reframe this? And what is the best way to respond for joy? Number 5, experience stillness. No silence. Sit quietly, breathe slowly and deeply, cease the mind chatter, which might take a while, and hold your body as still as possible. Block out or remove distracting stimuli. Turn off the phone, shut the blinds, whatever you need to do. Bring your attention to a single point of focus and experience nothing or nothing. Discover the still point of your eternal core. And number 6, honor your whole being. Pay attention to the signals of your body, your mind, and your emotions. The spirit, inner child, adolescent master, and honor the needs of your multiple parts in a balanced way. Find out what you really need and give to others only that which makes you feel joyful to give freely. What do I really need right now? Am I giving freely in joy, or am I giving to receive? How can I fulfill my own needs? And I'm going to keep going. I'm going to finish this, the 6 steps with joy, towards joy with others.
Okay.
Oops. Number 1, own your own stuff. When you feel bothered, breathe. Find the still point within. Gently ask your soul or your higher self, whatever you call it, for solutions. And refrain from complaining and expecting others to resolve your issues. You have the power within to unbother yourself, to restore joy without violating the boundaries of others. Be assertive with others and lovingly ask them not to dump their stuff on you by setting personal boundaries and enforcing them, reminding them of their power to create joy. Am I dumping my stuff on others right now? Am I allowing others to drain me by dumping their stuff on me? What are the real issues? Number 2, respect boundaries. Set and honor healthy personal boundaries, and kindly but assertively remind others that you will not have them crossed. Sometimes this requires tough love. Respect others' boundaries and refrain from acts of disrespect such as gossip, unsolicited advice, critiquing and judging, making assumptions and presumptions, minding their business, attempting to directly or indirectly control their actions, attitudes, or emotions. Respect other people's right to be who they are, and respect your own right to have and uphold personal boundaries. Am I genuinely respecting the boundaries of others? Am I allowing my boundaries to be violated? What actions can I take to change this? Number 3, mutuality. Competition, one-upsmanship, and passing judgment on others are ego games that blind you to self-awareness and empowerment. If situations are approached from a win-win perspective of mutuality and the highest vision for all is sought, joyful solutions will prosper. And this is one of the reasons that I really like Nexus, is because this is the perspective that Bob Wood takes, the win-win for everyone. What is the highest win-win vision right now? How can we both get our needs met? Are we respecting each other's boundaries? How will I heal or disengage non-mutual relationships? In other words, how will I deal with people who don't respect my personal boundaries? Number 4, be effective. Having to be right implies making others wrong and sets the stage for conflict. Is being right more important than creating desired outcomes? Being effective is finding win-win solutions, respecting the rights of all to be exactly who and how they are, even if you disagree. If you do not respect each other's boundaries and own your own stuff, you will be unable to create mutuality or effective solutions. If others need to make you wrong, recognize the ego game and refrain from engaging. Oftentimes, if you confront people and say, "I'm sorry, but I'm not going to play your game," they won't know what you're talking about, because this is usually subconscious. Sometimes it is conscious. Sometimes people know what they're doing, but most of the time they don't realize what they're doing. You do not have to justify your existence to others, and they do not have to justify their existence to you. Am I trying to make someone wrong? Is someone trying to make me wrong? Are we respecting each other's boundaries and right to be? Can I engage this with effective action? Number 5, responsibility. If we take responsibility for our words, actions, motives, and experiences, we will not blame others for our problems, and thus will empower ourselves to solve them. Self-awareness comes from gently critiquing ourselves to determine where our actions are violating others or are ineffective. Replace blame with compassion, humility, an effective action to reclaim your power to create joy? Am I acting responsibly, or am I blaming others? Am I allowing others to use blame as a way to control or manipulate me? How can I take responsible action in handling my stuff? Number 6, humility. Humility is knowing your true place in relation to the universe and the environment around you. It is knowing that you are not above or below others, and that all beings and all things are part of God, and therefore all should always be treated with love, honor, kindness, respect, mutuality, allowance, responsibility, and reverence. Do I act with humility? And in closing, something to ponder. Take some time to breathe today. On the inhale, think, I am joy. On the exhale, just breathe the joy out into all of your cells. Do this several times and then just sit quietly in the silence. Oops. Yeah, I can't see the bottom of the page. Oops. And we will start next week with embodying the responsibilities of mastery.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us today. And do you have any comments, Margie?
Well, all I can say, Michael, is wow. Just following you, reading this, it's almost gives me the perspective of just looking at myself.
Yes.
Because I made so many bad choices in my life, and I have this problem of not listening in most cases. So I'm reading this. It's really so enlightening. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
You're very welcome. Sharing this with others really is what brings me joy. This is my passion, and I really these am learning to live and embody these attitudes and responsibilities of mastery has so utterly and completely changed my life that I almost feel that I have an inherent responsibility to share this with others. I can't force it down anyone's throat, but those who are ready and want to hear, yes. So.
Oh, this is amazing. I do a lot of meditating myself. Like the time, like at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that's when I meditate. And it's really, like you're saying, it brings you so much peace. Just simply, it's not a very long meditation, but I find it sort of balances my being, because especially today, there's too much mental clutter for me anyway. And I always find that this meditation is so helpful. I appreciate, sharing this with me, Michael. And I'm so glad I asked you about the Crystal Mission,
The Crystal River Mission. Yes, you did ask me about what that was.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how did you get into this? Who shared it with you?
Oh, that's a long story. Tell you what, let's end this call. Let me just end the recording, and then we can continue to talk.
Okay.
So we'll see you guys back here next week, and we'll start next Monday with embodying the responsibilities of mastery.